There's no doubt that Japanese manufacturers make the best motorcycles in the world. But sometimes, even they come up with questionable bikes that don't do well on the market. Whether it's because of their design or simply because they couldn't find a place in the market. Here are 7 Japanese motorcycles for seniors that dealers are struggling to sell. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to talk about 7 Japanese motorcycles for seniors that dealers are struggling to sell. 7. Suzuki V-Strom 1000. The Suzuki V-Strom 1000 is one of those bikes that had all the right ingredients on paper, but never really found its place. When Suzuki first released it, the idea was to compete with the BMW GS and Yamaha Super Tenere by offering a cheaper, no-nonsense alternative. And for a while, it worked. People bought into the dream of a powerful, capable adventure tourer that didn't cost a fortune. But fast forward a few years, and dealerships are struggling to get these off the floor. The problem? It doesn't have the prestige of a BMW, the die-hard fanbase of a Yamaha, or the cutting-edge tech of a KTM. The adventure market has moved on, and the V-Strom 1000 just feels dated. It's stuck in this weird middle ground where it's too big and heavy for true off-road riding, but not quite as comfortable or refined as a proper long-haul tourer. For older riders, this bike presents an even bigger challenge. It's tall, really tall. With a 33.5-inch seat height and a top-heavy fuel tank, it's not exactly the easiest machine to balance at low speeds, especially if your knees aren't what they used to be. And then there's the 1037cc engine. It's got plenty of power, but it's not exactly silky smooth. The throttle response can be a bit snappy, which isn't great for relaxed cruising. Let's just say it had too many problems that grounded it for good. 6. Honda Fury. If there was ever a bike that proved Honda isn't afraid to take risks, it's the Fury. A factory-built chopper with Honda reliability? It sounded crazy at first, but when it dropped in 2010, people were intrigued. It had the long, stretched-out stance of a custom build, but without the finicky nature of most choppers. No oil leaks, no electrical nightmares, just a Honda. It was different. But here's the thing. Chopper culture isn't what it used to be. When the Fury first hit dealerships, custom choppers were already on the decline. The whole West Coast choppers and Orange County choppers craze was fading, and people were shifting back to more practical classic cruisers. The Fury found a niche audience, but it was never a huge seller. And as time went on, that niche got even smaller. Fast forward to today, and dealers can't give these things away. The Fury still looks cool, sure, but it hasn't changed in over a decade. Honda still keeps it in the lineup, but only because they don't really have anything else like it. 5. Kawasaki 1400 GTR Concours 14. There was a time when the Kawasaki Concours 14 was a serious contender in the sport touring world. It had everything: power, comfort, and long-distance capability. But as the years rolled on, the sport touring segment changed, and unfortunately for the Concours, it didn't. When it first launched, riders loved that it had a detuned version of the Ninja ZX-14R's engine. That meant effortless highway cruising and more than enough punch to leave most cruisers in the dust. But that power came at a cost. This thing is heavy. Fully fueled, it's pushing 670 pounds, and at slow speeds, you feel every ounce of it. Older riders who might have loved sport tours in the younger days are looking for something a little easier to manage, and the Concours 14 just isn't it. Dealerships are seeing this firsthand. It used to sell well because it was a cheaper alternative to the BMW K1600 GT, but now, riders looking for a sport tour are gravitating towards lighter, more modern bikes like the Yamaha Tracer 9 GT. The Concours 14, on the other hand, feels like a relic. It hasn't had a major update in years, and it's missing all the fancy electronics that have become standard on newer touring bikes. No adaptive cruise control, no lean-sensitive traction control, nothing. 4. Yamaha Bolt R-Spec. Yamaha introduced the Bolt to take on the Harley-Davidson Sportster, and for a while, it worked. The Bolt R-Spec, with its stripped-down bobber styling, caught the attention of older riders who wanted a cruiser that didn't feel like an old man's bike. It had a 942cc V-twin, a low seat, and a minimalistic look that made it a solid alternative to the more expensive Harleys. But here's the thing. The Sportster got discontinued, and Harley moved on to more refined modern cruisers. The Bolt, on the other hand, stayed exactly the same. No major updates, no improvements, just the same old bike. And now, dealers are stuck with them. For most senior riders, the Bolt comes with a few key issues. The suspension is stiff, really stiff. It might look like a laid-back cruiser, but hit a pothole and you'll feel every bit of it. The compact design also means limited legroom, which isn't ideal for anyone pushing 50. And unlike bigger cruisers that offer cushy seats and relaxed ergonomics, the Bolt forces you into a more aggressive riding position that can get uncomfortable on longer rides. It doesn't help that Yamaha never really positioned the Bolt for touring. There's no factory fairing, no real luggage options, and no cruise control. Things that older riders looking for a relaxed ride actually care about. 3. Honda CTX 700. Honda had the right idea with the CTX 700. A low seat, a relaxed cruiser-like riding position, and the option for an automatic DCT transmission. On paper, it was perfect for older riders who wanted something easy to ride without giving up the joy of motorcycling. But here's the problem. It was too sensible. Motorcycles at their core are about passion. Riders want something that excites them, something with personality. The CTX 700, it felt like an appliance. It was smooth, efficient, and practical, but it didn't have that emotional pull that made people excited to swing a leg over a bike. The parallel twin engine was reliable but uninspiring. The design was functional but forgettable. And the whole bike felt more like a two-wheeled Honda Civic than something you'd get excited about riding. When it first hit the market, there was some interest, especially from new and returning riders who wanted an easygoing experience. But over time, that excitement faded, and dealerships found them struggling to move them. Riders who wanted comfort leaned towards more traditional cruisers, while those looking for an easy commuter were drawn to scooters or smaller adventure bikes. The CTX 700 just didn't fit anywhere. 2. Suzuki Boulevard C90T. If there's one thing Suzuki has struggled with over the years, it's keeping up with the times. And the Boulevard C90T is a perfect example of that. This bike should, in theory, be a great option for older riders. It's got a big, torquey 1462cc V-twin, comfortable ergonomics, and a touring setup with a windshield and saddlebags. It's built for long-distance cruising, and on paper, it ticks all the right boxes. But here's the issue. It hasn't changed in years. The cruiser market has evolved, with brands like Harley-Davidson and Indian constantly updating their bikes with modern tech, refined engines, and better overall ride quality. Meanwhile, the C90T feels like it's still living in 2005. It's carbureted, it lacks modern rider aids, and it just doesn't have the refinement of newer cruisers. The suspension is okay, but it's not on par with competitors, and the overall fit and finish feel a bit outdated. Plus, at nearly 800 pounds, it's not exactly light, and low-speed maneuvering can be a challenge. The lack of modern features like cruise control, ride modes, or even a decent infotainment system makes it feel dated compared to other touring cruisers. And because Suzuki hasn't really pushed this bike in any meaningful way, it's been quietly collecting dust in dealerships. When it first came out, it had a decent following, mainly from riders who wanted a cheaper alternative to Harley and Indian. But as the years went on, that appeal faded. Now, dealerships are finding it nearly impossible to move these bikes. 1. Kawasaki Vulcan 1700 Vaquero. The Kawasaki Vulcan 1700 Vaquero should have been a hit. A big, aggressive bagger with a 1700cc V-twin, a full fairing, and hard saddlebags. It had everything to go toe-to-toe with Harley-Davidson's Street Glide or Indian's Chieftain. But in reality, it became the hardest bike for dealerships to sell. Kawasaki initially positioned the Vaquero as a modern alternative to American baggers. It had a fuel-injected V-twin, electronic cruise control, and a big muscle bike look that was supposed to attract riders who wanted something different. And for a little while, it worked. Some riders gave it a shot, drawn in by the lower price and Kawasaki's reputation for reliability. But fast forward to today, and the Vaquero is a tough sell. The problem? It hasn't evolved. While Harley and Indian have been constantly refining their baggers with new tech, updated engines, and better overall ride quality, the Vaquero has remained virtually unchanged. It still uses the same old 1700cc V-twin that, while torquey, feels underpowered compared to the competition. The ride isn't as smooth, the infotainment system is outdated, and for a touring bike, it lacks some of the long-distance comfort that riders expect. Not only that, it's heavy, really heavy. At 844 pounds, it's one of the heaviest bikes in its class, and that weight is felt at low speeds. Maneuvering it in parking lots or slow-moving traffic can be a workout, and for older riders who want an easygoing ride, that's a deal breaker. Plus, the seating position, while comfortable for shorter trips, doesn't quite measure up to the plush comfort of a Goldwing or an Indian Roadmaster on longer journeys. And then, there's the dealership problem. When the Vaquero was new, it at least had some novelty. But now, it's been the same bike for over a decade with no major updates, and it's starting to feel like a relic. Riders who want a bagger are going straight for Harley or Indian, while those looking for a Japanese alternative are opting for the Honda Goldwing. The Vaquero is just sitting there, collecting dust in showroom corners, waiting for someone who doesn't mind buying a bike that feels a generation behind. Kawasaki hasn't officially pulled the plug on the Vaquero, but at this point, dealerships probably wish they would. They're struggling to sell them, and with each passing year, it's getting harder to convince riders that this bike is worth considering. If you're looking for a bike, it's best to avoid these 7 and just go for something that will give you less headache. Make sure you like this video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated on our latest videos.